Hello. Few updates. It's been a busy week with the whole casting a feature-length film. It's really cool, but also a bit crazy. Never done this before. As many, I don't know who's watching this, so I don't know. Not a huge audience. Let's just say that. But we did the casting call this last Saturday. I spoke with over 35 plus potential actors over the last few weeks. And out of that 35, I believe we got 25, 26 or so to engage with this information form so that we could have some questions answered and be able to kind of use that in relations to the casting process. And then after that, we got about, I think it was like 17 people to sign up for an individual time slot, and then we got another 5 to 8 people to turn in video submissions. And then even after we did the auditions on Saturday, we're still getting a few people, so that's pretty cool. But overall, this process is a very interesting and enjoyable one. It's a bit stressful at times, but as I don't think I started. Somebody else, I think, told me it's the stress we choose. So that's cool. Choosing your stress versus your stress choosing you. But yeah, the next thing we're moving into is I'm looking for the rest of my production team, a sound lead, production designer, and some other key people. That way, trying this whole filmmaking thing a little differently than one day I'll just like go into how I've kind of set this up and how I think it's different than how other people do it. I don't know. I may be doing it a little bit the same, a little bit different. I don't know. Definitely have not I've definitely not read a handbook on how to produce a film. So I could be doing it right. I could be doing it wrong. But yeah. It's a wonderful team. That's all that's important. Team that has not set me on fire yet. Which is good. Then, let's see, yeah. I guess there's some school updates. It's getting closer to the end of the quarter. And, you know, Portland State University is pretty cool. There's definitely some, some hiccups and some problems. But sometimes with those problems, there's advantages. Like, I live in Vancouver, Washington, but I go to school across the river, over into Portland. And I can only take 8 credits due to this because I have a boundary exception, so I don't have to pay out-of-state tuition, which is monstrous. For any of you who know what out-of-state tuition can look like, it's not a pretty number. But on the same flip side, on the opposite side, I'm there longer, don't have to do as much classwork, so I can do as much more production work. And on another flip side, I'll be 34 by the time I graduate PSU. So that's weird. What you gonna do? But yeah, it's a pretty campus, so that's enjoyable. The food's a little overpriced, but that's probably because urban area, downtowny Portland stuff more than PSU. I don't blame them. I need money. I need the job that works with production and school. Good luck with that, right? Right. But yeah, I'm going to try to talk about a couple different subjects real quick, maybe. If you don't care about those subjects, I'm going to put a link in, it's Hank Green? In the doobly-doo, the comment section. Whatever. Still, I mean, plagiarize. I mean, copy the people you like, right? Copy. So yeah, if you want to skip around or rewatch a specific topic, I guess, below in the comment information box system, the doobly-doo, will allow you to go to specific subject matters. I'm saying a lot. I'm trying not to do that. One take. So, humanism. Stop that. Humanism. To me, I'm specifically a secular humanist. And this is important distinction because humanism doesn't necessarily mean secularist or non-theistic. So you could be a religious humanist. You can be specific types of humanists, like a Christian or a Buddhist or Jewish or Islamic humanist or an atheistic humanist. Not pretty much secular humanists are atheist humanists. They might be spiritual. I don't know. They don't typically believe in gods, or they're deistic. Probably not super theistic if they don't have something else attached to it. But I digress. And so I know more about secular humanism than I would say general humanism. Like I have an understanding, like, of the history, but how that has pertained to other people throughout the world that isn't specifically within the realm of secular humanism, I can't probably touch too much on. I want to touch all over the other humanisms. But to suffice it to say, for me, humanism is this idea that whether it's atheistic or theistic humanism, is that humanity can do good without God. That we can fix our own problems. We can change our destinies, I guess, collectively, more say, or even individualistically. But we can be our perfect selves without needing the supernatural to help us. It's kind of a response to, let's say, oh, I'm going to go pray to my God so that these things happen better, favorably, in a way that I want. Like, a family member is sick, so I'm going to pray, in hopes that they get better. Or, I will pray to the spirits that the harvest is good. Or, we gotta follow these specific commandments that some supernatural force has laid out. By the way, I'm pretty sure they're man-made, not. But I digress. But the idea is that we don't need to rely on the supernatural to better ourselves, to move into the future. And that's not it, but that right there, like, think about that. Like, if you're a religious person or a spiritual person, to think about what the world would look like if there was no religion, no spirituality. How would you determine what is good, and how would you determine what's the right thing to do? And in humanism, that's kind of the idea, is what is the right thing to do? Let's even in religious humanism, it's human-centric. Not necessarily in a bad way. I guess in some groups it could be in a bad way, but I really should take notes and read them. So this is all off the top of my head. But if you think about it, you got to start. To me, being a humanist requires you to think about how you're going to treat another person, how you're going to interact with another person. Why is that the right thing? Why is that the bad thing? It forces you to think about the rights and the wrongs in relation to you, the other person, the society as a whole, humanity, even on a larger scope. And what does that mean? And in specific branches of humanism and stuff like that, they kind of take everything a little differently. But what I like to tell people, or as I have a conversation with people, have you watched Star Trek? Like Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, so the original series and Next Gen, and to some degree Deep Space Nine and Voyager, maybe a bit of Enterprise. But those original series of Star Trek, did you like them? Did you like the stories that they were telling you? If you did, those are humanistic values. Star Trek is really humanistic propaganda. Like, if you start looking into what Gene Roddenberry's personal philosophy is, and other people like Isaac Asimov and other science fiction writers from their time and stuff like that, they really saw this optimistic future because it was in our power to overcome problems, to make our situation better. And you know what? We have. In the last 80 years, we've done so much for humanity. Like, murder and crime and death and childhood mortality, they're all down. Yes, we might create our own more problems by solving these problems, but we do a lot more good than I think most people realize. Like, even nowadays, people are like, oh, you know, this bad thing, insert tragedy here, we need to do something about it. But I don't think most people realize that that's part of the way we hear stories. We hear much more negative, impactful stories than we do positive stories. When's the last time you turned on the news and you saw, you know, somebody getting a reward or praise for, you know, helping somebody that was maybe even in the most dire situation? It was just they did something nice, you know. Like, we cover a lot of the negative, like, important stuff, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot more of that you know, we see a lot more of that in our media than we do the wonderful, beautiful, amazing things. And I think this is also why more people should tune into art and entertainment and talk about it, because the wonderful things that can come from there. And, you know, we can also talk about the things affecting our lives both positively and negatively through art and entertainment. But I think sometimes the most direct form of reporting on a story, you don't always see the bias, and sometimes that bias isn't something we'd all would disagree with. It's that bias of, oh, this is big and it's important and somebody died, or a lot of people died, or certain groups of people died, and so we need to talk about that. And that's in itself a bias. Yeah. So that's kind of a quick snippet. I think maybe I'm definitely gonna these topics today. I'm gonna just kind of sink my teeth into. That way, in future videos, I start building a reference points for people, so that, you know, maybe eventually I can cut this out and make a larger video, or maybe I can condense and take people's feedback and stuff like that and fix up my point, or correct any mistakes I may have said or something like that. But today I'm not trying to do too much factual stuff. So another important subject matter that I kind of want to talk on is polyamory. I myself am polyamorous, non-monogamous, ethical non-monogamy, or I've heard lots of prefixes and affixes and suffixes and affirmations and words and things, but polyamory, I feel like, gets the point across pretty well. And to me, for those who do not know what that word means, is this idea of we can love more than one person at a time. We can have more than one romantic or sexual or emotional relationship with another human being at a time. And this goes in the face of a lot of tradition, a lot of values. Even people who are pretty like, yeah, down with the men, down like with the old traditions, are like, ooh, maybe not that. I can remember, this wasn't all that long ago, or maybe it was. Oh man, that is a long time. That is a while ago, ain't it? I remember having a conversation with a couple people about polyamory, and it was right after, gay marriage really got steam across the country. It became very legal and all that good stuff. And I had said, well, I think it was right before it, maybe. Like a year or so before. I don't know. Either way, I was talking about, that we should also be working to make polyamorous marriages normalized. And they're like, whoa. The other people are going to think that as a slippery slope, and, then we'll be fucking animals and all sorts of weird shit. And I'm like, that was frustrating. Either way, now I'm going off on a tangent. But polyamory to me is, think about this. Have you ever loved more than one person at a time? Like, in your life. Like, 10 years ago you loved this one person, and then 5 years after that, you broke up and you loved another person, and now you broke up with that person and you love with another person. Or is the love that you feel for your family, like your children or your parents or your grandparents or your uncles or your cousins or even close friends, the same kind of love that you share with a romantic partner? How is that different? What are the different aspects? It's both love. People say like romantic love or platonic love, but going back to that example of loving people over your life or the people you will love in the future, do you truly stop loving those people from the past? Can you just flip a switch and be like, I'm done, don't love you anymore? Think about an ex that you really drives you fucking nuts, right? Like there's a part of your brain that's like, oh, I almost want to like smother them to death just so I don't have to ever see them again. Think about that anger. Some of that anger is driven from the fact that you can't just flip a switch and stop loving people. Now, I'm not saying everybody should date or be in a relationship with their ex because they still love them. I'm just trying to illustrate a point that love is not an on and off switch. You don't get to turn it on for some people and turn it off for another. It's a thing that happens in your brain, and that switch gets hit not by your choice, which is a whole nother argument about determinism and free will, which I would like to get into, but maybe not today. And it's interesting. You don't get to choose who you love. Either way, let's go with that. You don't get to choose who you love. If you could, I don't know what the world would look like, but it isn't. Look at the world. You don't get to choose the people you love. So you don't get to choose the people you love. And you can't stop loving people. So why limit yourself to that deep love for just one person? Why can't it be two? Why can't it be three? I'm not saying go out and have a harem. Maybe that is something you want. I'm not judging. But the idea would be, why limit yourself? And some people have told me, well, jealousy. I would be super jealous that my partner was with somebody else. To me, jealousy is a constructed emotion. It's not a human emotion that all humans feel. A lot of humans feel, but it's partly due to a cultural thing. It's not like happiness or joy or sadness or envy or anger. Jealousy is a composite emotion that's built from all sorts of different things, and we're taught how to be jealous. Not everybody has jealousy. Everybody has anybody who can feel emotions. FYI, there's a little disclosure. There are people who can't feel emotions quite the same way. But for those people who can feel emotions generally normally, can feel anger, can feel happiness, can feel sadness, can feel envy, can feel all these sorts of things. But there's a set of emotions that are cobbled together, constructed emotions that we feel in certain ways due to certain situations, and those are culturally based. So, either way, emotions, good side note, we'll talk about that another day. Always another day. Like Elton Brown says, that's a recipe for another day. But why, to me, jealousy isn't a healthy thing. Some people are like, oh, if my partner isn't jealous that I'm seeing this other person that they should be jealous over, then they don't love me. Think about the mental gymnastics you have to do to put yourself in the shoes of, oh, this person should be upset that I'm around somebody else that they should... Why would you want somebody to feel upset? Why would you want somebody to possess you? Think about that. Why? Do you want to be possessed? Like, tell me in the comments what feels right about being possessed. I don't want to be possessed. I am not a piece of property for anybody for whatever reason. And jealousy is that. That is what jealousy is. Jealousy is, I own this person. Maybe not in the way of like slaves of old where, you go and do some work and I get money from that. Okay, maybe in some relationships, stay-at-home husbands and stay-at-home wives, maybe. Or kind of, I digress. But we shouldn't own people. Not just physically, but emotionally or mentally. We shouldn't own people. We shouldn't control how people feel or how people think. I'm in the camp of, if you love somebody, and let's say I wasn't polyamorous, let's say I was monogamous, and I loved somebody, and the other person I'm with was like, something happened, and they started loving this other person, and it started diminishing their interaction with me, I would possibly let them go. Like, I wouldn't want somebody to be around me just because of societal pressures to be around me. I would want them to explore their life, which is partly why I'm polyamorous, because I do believe that. And I'd rather somebody who wants to be in a relationship with me or open with me on that intimate level because they want to be, not be because of some sort of dumb social pressure-y contract bullshit. Or because they own me. I don't own them. They should be free to do what they want. I'm gonna remember this quote incorrectly. If you love something, set it free. Don't strangle something. And I feel like that's what jealousy really is. But there's a trick to polyamory. It's not a, oh, I can fuck or do whatever I want card. It's a, if I agree to this, if I and my partner and partners agree to it, there's rules to the game. And whatever those rules are is determined between you, that partner, and any other people that you bring in. And it can become a really messy situation. But through that mess, there's a lot of connection and a lot of community that can be built from that. And if people, all that I ask for people is that you just be open about what you feel and let other people be open with you. And communication, if you can do communication, if you could talk about your feelings, even if they're jealousy, even if there are things that you say, well, we're not going to be jealous or we're not going to be this people, and you feel that way, communicating that idea is what's important. Because things can be shifted around. If you can't communicate, polyamory is not for you. Or at least at that moment. Like, communication is super important. And I'm going to leave on this note. Because communication is important. To me, lying. Let's get into lying and not telling the truth. If you blame somebody who lies to you for lying to you, and you don't take any time to think about why they might lie to you, think that's part of the problem. Think about it. If you've ever withheld the truth or lied to somebody, think about why you did that. Think about why you needed to tell them that lie. Is it because you didn't want to hurt them? Is it because you didn't want to hurt them? Is it because you didn't want to get hurt yourself? Is it you're worried to break a rule and you'll be punished? Either way, you don't want to. Usually what I found when myself feeling like not telling the truth or lying, or when interacting with other people, it's usually out of fear. It's out of fear of loss. It's out of fear of hurting. It's out of fear of pain. And I feel like the people who are really good at listening, right? Those people who you can just talk to, is because those people aren't going to judge you. At least they're not going to judge you right there. They're not going to break you down because they're willing to listen to what you have to say. They're going to take in what you have to say. They're going to consider it. They're going to provide an environment where you can feel safe to tell the truth. That, I think, is the real key. If you don't want somebody to lie to you, don't get mad at them for not telling you the truth. Try to figure out how you can be a better listener. How you can take in what they have to say without it damaging your psyche, your ego, your emotions, and just listen to what they have to say. And it's okay to be sad or mad, but it's how you present those emotions in that conversation. You know, let them take it in. Give it some time. Minutes, hours, days, months. Come back to them and tell them how you feel in response if it's something super personal. But don't hurt people. At the very least, do not hurt people physically. Do not punch, kick, bite, scrape, stab, any of that. Don't hurt people. And try not to emotionally hurt people. Be aware of your words and your actions and how they might affect other people's emotions. Try to be conscious about how you would feel in somebody else's position. Well, I guess on that, and this probably long video, I'm going to go do some homework, do some production work, go to school, rinse and repeat. Oh, and a ton of meetings. Did I mention that making movies is really 90% meetings?